Good evening, brothers and honored guests. As Jeff mentioned, my name is Robert Stalder, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as the Awards Committee Chairman of the Phi Kappa Theta Foundation. I also have the distinct pleasure of introducing this year's Phi Kappa Theta Foundation Man of Achievement. This year's honoree comes to us from the Ohio Omicron chapter at the University of Cincinnati. Our 2015 Man of Achievement grew his family's heating, ventilation, and air conditioning business that was established by his father in 1952 from $1.5 million in revenue in 1970 when he took over as president/CEO to a company that does revenue of over $200 million today. Tonight's honoree currently serves as the company's chairman and is currently in the process of turning over leadership duties to a third generation of the family. This year's Man of Achievement has not only been very successful in the business arena, he has also given generously to the community. His company has provided generous funding for the Center for Professional Selling at the University of Cincinnati's College of Business, and also to other charities around the area, including for cancer research. And indeed, that is not all. Tonight's honoree has also served in the leadership of the Legatus of Cincinnati, whose mission is to, quote, to study, live, and spread the Catholic faith in our business, professional, and personal lives, unquote. So there is very little doubt that this year's Man of Achievement is living Phi Kappa Theta's mission of serving society, fraternity, and God by personifying the ideals of everything Phi Kappa Theta teaches young college men today in terms of leadership development, fraternal development, intellectual development, social development, and spiritual development. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming and congratulating the 2015 Phi Kappa Theta Foundation Man of Achievement, Brother Fred Habegger.
This past March, I got an email from Rob, and he said that I was nominated for this outstanding award tonight. And to be real honest with you, I've been under the radar for 58 years as far as the National Fraternity is concerned. That active with a lot of my buddies on the local basis, but from the national, this is the first convention I've ever attended, and I didn't really know the chapter or the national knew that I existed. And I kind of thought one of my buddies was pulling a fast one, that I was going to show up in Lexington on August 1st, and there wasn't going to be anybody here. One of the guys that we do bum around with, one of our brothers, Ed Geckel, is connected, has come to the conventions, and I gave Eddie a call, and I said, Ed, is this for real, or is Jack Reed or Tom Weingartner or one of my buddies pulling a fast one? He said, no, it is a big deal. He said that I will be there, and you should be really proud that they're able to accept this award. Well, Eddie made me feel better, and I was looking forward to spending this night with Ed. Unfortunately, Ed Geckel passed away 3 weeks ago. A congestive heart failure, and Ed was our connection. He was a connection of the 20 or so guys that are 24 guys, all Phi Caps that we bum around with. When I was at UC, it actually took me 6 years to get through. I really enjoyed college. And I started out in engineering for 2 years and then switched into business. And so I was there for 6 years and knew the guys 3 or 4 years ahead of me and knew the guys 3 or 4 years behind me. So the guys that graduated between 1960 and 1970 were my friends and still are. And we have worked hard to keep together. We have a luncheon group, and this is something that I would advise everybody to try to do. We meet every month, first Friday of every month. We all get together, and we just relive the old times. Every year, this was our 48th consecutive year that we have gone on a golf trip with our wives. We were in French Lick earlier this week from Monday through Thursday. And again, I'm thinking Wednesday night, driving back from the restaurant to the French Lick Hotel, we're singing the old raunchy Phi Cap beer songs. And the truck driver's going out, or the bus driver's going out of his mind. He can't believe these old guys are having so much fun. So we have really kept this group together, and I'm hoping that maybe one of the things that will happen, one of the reasons maybe I'm here tonight, is that we can get a closer affiliation, certainly with our local chapter. We've got 4 of the guys here. They were nice enough to come over to our table and introduce themselves to us, and also a closer, or initiate an affiliation with National. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever asked yourself, what are the 2 or 3 greatest days of my life? Yeah, most of you are younger and you probably haven't thought about that because those great days are still ahead of you. But at the end of my talk, I wanted to take a couple minutes and just share with you the 3 greatest days of my life. Now on with the Fred Habegger story. I was born in Pittsburgh. Matter of fact, Harry was at our table, and another Pittsburgh guy. And after, when I was in 7th grade, my father, who worked for the Bryant Heating Company in Pittsburgh, was transferred to Cincinnati. Actually, he purchased the office in Cincinnati and moved our family, and we've been there since 1952. I went to a Jesuit high school in downtown Cincinnati. It was a big decision to go there. A lot of my high school buddies are still very close. As was said, I went to the University of Cincinnati, and really one of the big decisions was, what fraternity are you going to join? Now, I rushed Phi Kappa Theta. It was Phi Kappa at that time because it was a Catholic fraternity. Kind of separated it out from the other ones, but I joined it because of the guys. Just a great group of guys at that time, and it was easily some of the best times of my life. And obviously, in 6 years, I was having a pretty good time for most of it. When I got out of college, I had a choice of who to go to work for, and I came very close to going to work with Procter & Gamble. Big company in Cincinnati, and I had a good offer to go into brand management. But my father's company was still small at the time, and I thought about the idea of working for a family business and have my name on the door, and that's what I decided to do. When I graduated in '63, this was the early times of the Vietnam War, and you had to either join up or you got drafted. And a fraternity brother of mine, Charlie Moran, had gone into the Coast Guard, and he said it was a pretty safe place to be, so it sounded good to me. So I went in, I joined the Coast Guard for 6 months, and while I was in the Coast Guard, my father got sick. And it was a virus that unfortunately settled into his heart, destroyed some of the muscles, and they said at that time that he might have 10 years to live. So I get out of the service, get married, go into business, knowing that my dad's not going to be around that long. This was in 1964. And July 20th, 1970, my father passed away. One thing I hadn't mentioned, during one of the major advantages for me to be in college for 6 years is that I had 2 younger brothers that were also in college with me, and they both became Phi Caps. And it's because of them as well as myself that this group has been together. It's been our friends for all those years that have stayed together. When my father passed away, I wanted my 2 brothers to join the company. One had already done it. I got my other younger brother also to join, and I had a sister in the business. So now we have 4 relatively young people, and I have to tell you, my brothers and sister are really talented. They could have gone to work for anyone, and they would have been a major factor. And the idea to have 4 of us in one small business was we didn't realize, an overload of talent, and we did spectacular. Immediately, we put up a new facility, kind of changed the outlook, got aggressive, and things were great. But it came to a screeching halt in '73, '74 due to the OPEC oil embargo. And when they had the oil embargo, there was a scarcity of oil, scarcity of natural gas. And in Cincinnati, which was our territory, new construction, a new home, if you were getting a new home, you were not allowed to have natural gas. You had to have electricity. Well, our main product was a gas furnace, and all of a sudden, gas furnaces aren't allowed to be sold. And everything went heat pump. And unfortunately for us, our supplier, Bryant Manufacturing Company, didn't have a heat pump. And so here we are, all of our customers had to go to another vendor, and vendors were more than happy to come in and sell them the heat pumps plus everything else. So for 2 or 3 years, we really struggled just to hold on to the business. But eventually the embargo was lifted. Eventually Brian came up with a heat pump, and we were off and running. And the old saying is that if it doesn't kill you, it's going to make you stronger. Well, the adversity did make us stronger. My dad had sold to a limited number of contractors, and we didn't call on anybody else. But because the competition had gone after us when we were weak, we went after them with a vengeance, and it paid off. Where we thought we could only sell to a small group, we found out that we were able to expand that, and business grew greatly through the 70s. But we found out towards the end of the 70s that while the company was big enough to support my dad's family, the four of us now had 16 kids, and the families were growing, and that our territory wasn't big enough. And we approached the Bryant factory and asked them if we could have additional territory. And after some negotiation, we were able to purchase their Columbus office. With Bryant, they owned some of their distribution and some was independent. We were independent, many others were factory owned. So we took over their operation in Columbus, first step expansion we ever had, and it was really the scariest of all because we got outside of our comfort zone. While we were in Cincinnati, everybody knew my father, they knew the Habegger name, and we could kind of rest on our laurels. But we went to Columbus, no one knew us. But we had a principle of hiring good people, giving them responsibility, and getting out of their way. And that really seemed to work. We were fortunate to get a good manager, and Columbus took off like gangbusters. 2 years later, the factory comes to us and said, did a good job in Columbus, would you like to do Cleveland? We did Cleveland. That was in 1982. In 1987, Bryant was purchased by Carrier Corporation, and where Carrier had been our competition, now we were part of the Carrier family. And I figured that Carrier was a bigger name than Bryant, and it would be good that we would be part of that family. So we were able to get the Carrier line in Cincinnati and Dayton, Ohio. And in one day, I hired 34 people, and our business expanded 120% overnight. I mean, we were off and running. It took us 4 or 5 years to sort of swallow that and kind of get into how to handle. It was a different line, big commercial, 1,000-ton chillers, things that we hadn't sold before, but we learned it and did well. 1995, Brian came to us and said, would you be interested in taking over all our distribution in Indiana and in Kentucky? And Bryant was located in Indianapolis. That was their home, and they owned all their distribution. So we, with again another signature, we wound up having all of Indiana and Kentucky. So things really exploded during that time, and the business grew and the business grew. We get to 2000. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking my dad passed away at 55. And I gotta start thinking there's other things beyond work. Gotta spend time with my wife, do some traveling. And I had a son that came to work for us out of college, went to Miami University. And when we opened up in Indianapolis, he agreed to go there to be our operations manager, did a great job. And with that move, sort of became my heir apparent. And but he wasn't ready. And when I'm ready to kind of step back, he was only 31. Even though I took over 31, it was a small company, now it was a giant company. And I was able to hire an interim CEO, non-family, that would work 10 or 12 years to sort of be the bridge between my generation and the third generation. Worked out great. In January 1st, 2014, my son took over as the CEO, and I became the chairman. And so for the last year and a half, he's done a terrific job running the company, and it continues to grow. It's been a wonderful life for me from a business standpoint, and they mentioned before we did do $1.5 million. My dad's last year was about $1.5 million, and we do over $1.5 million a day now. We'll sell 40,000 furnaces and air conditioners a year, and that's all one at a time. I mean, we're in 7 states, we have 32 offices, we have 350 employees, and we'll do about $250 million this year. So it really has grown. And the best part for me is that I've done it with my family. I've done it with my 2 brothers who are also my fraternity brothers, and it's somewhat unique. And it's, as well as the accomplishment of growing the business, to get a family business into the 3rd generation doesn't automatically happen. But it has happened in our case. And my brothers are my 2 best friends, and their wives are my wife's best friends, and it really has worked out great. So I have been blessed. Before I wind this up, though, I mentioned the 3 greatest days of your life. This has nothing to do with business. I just want to share it with everybody. The first date, October 19th, 1956. I'm a senior in high school. I'm on the football team. I'm not that good, I'm pretty small, third string running back, don't get in very many games. But it's senior night, and all the fathers are invited to the games. And I told my coach, my dad was really not into football, worked hard. Back in those days, the fathers didn't go to the games like they do today. My dad had never seen me play. I was a good player in grade school, never seen me play. I didn't want him to come and have me sit on the bench, and I asked the coach, if I asked my dad to come, can I get in? And he said, all the seniors will get to play. So I asked my dad, and he was happy to come. He sits down on the bench, had my number on his over his shirt. And fourth quarter, we're up by a couple of touchdowns, and so now it's time to get the third stringers in, and they put me in the game. And I'm playing cornerback. And about the second or third play, they throw a little swing pass to my side, and the guy gets up to catch it, tips it, he falls down, and it floats right into my hands. There's nobody there, and I start running. And my Father Robinson, who was my algebra teacher, he said, when you did that, your dad was racing with you down the sidelines, and he's screaming, run, you little son of a bitch, run! It's not over yet. We get the ball back, and the coach says, Habegger, go on in at halfback. And about the third play, they call a little trap, and I go up the middle, 56 yards for a touchdown. So I've touched the ball twice, one on offense, one on defense. 13 years later, my father passes away, but during that time, he was convinced, one, we had the stupidest coach in the world to keep his kid on the bench, and two, that his kid could have been an All-American, so I was blessed. That was the first great day of my life. Second date was September 7th, 2006. It happened at the old course at St. Andrews. 3 fraternity brothers and their wives, and Nancy, my wife Nancy and I were going to Scotland, and we were leaving on a Friday. The Wednesday before we were to leave, I was playing golf with my 2 brothers, and we were going to have dinner with their wives at Hyde Park Country Club in Cincinnati. And I saw a buddy of mine who was having dinner with his wife, and I went over to say hi. His name was Jim Stahl. Jim was the captain of our high school golf team. And under Jim's captain, we won the first state championship of any sport for St. X in 1957. We went up and we beat Upper Arlington, and the captain of Upper Arlington was Jack Nicklaus. So it was like a Hoosier story. Well, Jim Stahl went on to win the U.S. Senior Amateur and went on to win the British Senior Amateur. And he asked me, are you playing at St. Andrews? And I said, yes, we are. On Wednesday morning at 7:30, we tee off. He said, how would you like to have lunch at the RNA, the Royal and Ancient Clubhouse? And I'm thinking, who do you have to kill to do that? Well, Jim, when he won the British Senior Amateur, became a lifetime member, and he said, give me the names. And so he made the arrangements. The next day, I get an email from the RNA saying that you and Mr. Malone and Mr. Lafferty and Mr. Grauman, all fraternity brothers, can have lunch at 1:30 at the RNA. We go over, we play golf. I shoot the best round of my life. This is the best day, one of the best days of my life. I shoot 76 at the old course at St. Andrews. We go back to the hotel. We get our blazers, our ties on. We go back. They won't let the wives in. I actually added a little bit to it. And that was truly one of the great days of my life. The third and final day, October 9th, 1959. I'm dating this girl called Patty, and wasn't serious, wasn't going anywhere. I hadn't asked her out for 6-7 weeks. And she calls me up and asks me out, says that there's a party, her friend Nancy is having a party, and that after the football game, after the UC football game, and so I agree to go. Well, we go to the party, and I knew Nancy, but I really didn't know her. And that night, she was the one. Not the girl I was with, but the girl who was having the party. And now what am I going to do about it? Well, she was going to a Catholic girls' school, college in Cincinnati, and they had a dance every Sunday night. So I got one of my fraternity brothers, Stan Budd, who knew her well from high school. we didn't call them wingmen back in those days, but you guys all know what I mean. So Stan and I go up to the Mount St. Joseph dance, and I act surprised. Oh, Nancy, that's right, I didn't forgot you went here. And so we dance a little bit, and she's telling me the guy she's going with, and she's, you know, I think I'm her big brother or something. Not that I have anything in mind. The next week I call her up and I ask her to go out, and absolutely no, you've been dating my friend Patty, I can't go out with you. And call her again. Then I call my buddy Stan, my fraternity brother, and say, Stan, would you please call her and tell her whether she goes out with me or not, Patty and I are finished. And so eventually she said that she would go out with me, and we never dated anyone else. We have been married for 51 years. We have 6 children, 17 grandchildren, 1 great-grandchildren. She's a little pretty gray lady. Stand up just a second, Nancy. So I would have to say that my Man of Achievement Award, that's what I've really achieved, without a doubt. And you've been a great audience. I really appreciate it. And this honor means the world to me. I'll never be able to express how much it means. And I'd have to say that if I ever have to give a talk that includes the greatest days of my life, I'm sure to include August 1st, 2015. Thank you all. I'm remiss. Would you guys and gals all stand? These are 3, I've known these guys for over 50 years. Dave and Susan Mooring, Bob and Mary Jo Weehouse, and Jim and Margie Mayer. Round of applause. It means so much for me to have them here.
Connor Johns, University of Cincinnati.
Connor.
My question is based on Cincinnati. Like, what was your favorite part about going to that university?
I would have to say the fraternity experience was definitely, going back for any reunions, it would be with my fraternity brothers, more so than with the college itself. And I played a lot of intramural sports all with the fraternity. We played bridge, we drank, we partied, we had a great time. So I can't imagine going through college without being part of a fraternity. And I was so fortunate to be a member of Phi Kappa Theta at the University of Cincinnati.
James Green, China University.
Hey, James.
If you give one piece of advice to the undergrads, what would it be?
I would say that from a business standpoint, that when you graduate, it doesn't have to be the big companies. It doesn't have to be the Procter & Gamble's or the IBM's or the people like that. That there are a lot of family-owned companies like ours where that you can really shine with. And matter of fact, again, I mentioned we're in 7 states. If anybody's looking for a job, we love to hire Phi Caps. So I would say that the bit of advice was when you're out looking for a job, think of small independent companies, not just the big ones.
It sounds like you've achieved much in your life, and we were just wondering at this table, how has the fraternity, helped you achieve so much, and then how has it helped run the company or your family helps operate?
Well, really the first position of management that I ever had was president of fraternity my senior year. I stayed around long enough. I was the oldest guy, so I got elected. But I think that running a fraternity is like running a business. You got to watch the finances. You got to watch the membership count. You got to watch how things are going. So I think that was great training, really from that standpoint. Also, the connections you make. One of my closest friends, and we mentioned his name earlier tonight, is one of that group we're with is an architect in Cincinnati. Done a ton of business through Bob Brahman's name. One of the guys that went to Scotland with me. So the contacts you make through the fraternity are also very important. So I hope that gives you an idea anyway.
Hi, Carter Black, University of Georgia Delta Rho. Being a man that has achieved so much, I'm sure you talk in front of audiences all the time about your experiences. Can you tell us something that maybe you don't share very often, that a little bit more into your personal life that maybe you haven't shared in front of many people, so they get to know you maybe a little bit better?
I've never shared the 3 best days of my life. You guys are already, you guys are already up on any other people that I've ever talked to. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I could give you the 3 worst days of my life. I don't want to do that. One of their achievement on August 11th, 2011, I was 71 years old. I shot my age at golf.
So just kind of going back to your undergraduate days, what would you say is your best story from your undergraduate fraternity career that you're allowed to tell?
One of my most favorite experiences was the pledge active football game the year that I was a pledge. And the pledges had never beat the actives. But we had some players in our class. And I was in a position of leadership at that time because I played quarterback for the pledges, and we got in some practice that the actives weren't aware of. And we kicked their ass. I